Do you know how much of my life has been wasted watching screens like this? On today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. Hi, my name is Charles Ray Dawson. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 120. I am the Associate Broker Residential Sales Manager of ProStar Realty, and it is May the 18th, and I'm recording, and I got nothing to talk about. So I spent most of this morning catching up. I took off to Utah over Mother's Day weekend, and so doing everything remotely, which is sort of cool in today's age, is that, you know, you really can do a lot of work from home. You can really do a lot of work remotely. One of my lenders has actually spent the last 2 weeks, he was in Vietnam and Thailand and doing the Southeast Asia tour or anything like that. And, you know, except for the time difference, he's got his laptop. He can pretty much do everything that he could do at home or at an office or anything. So that's the new age we live in. The problem is when things start acting squirrely from the IT standpoint, then you going to have a bad day. And we've been having a series of bad days over here, not with my machines or anything, but our digital copier up front is not scanning properly. Our email addresses are going all weird in various directions. We're having just some technical difficulties, you know, the problems that happens with technology and depending too much and outsourcing too much of your workflow onto, you know, digital processes, which can really be a wonderful thing. But when something goes wrong and you're dealing with multiple different vendors, and every vendor is always going to say it's not us, it's them, because every one of those tech support guys you call on has a little counter going off in the corner, and he is being rated by how quickly he gets you off the phone. Now, notice that does not mean resolving your issue. What that means is he's trying to get you off the phone so he can work more calls, so he can have a lower call time and a higher close rate. And this sort of breaks in one of one of these overall issues is, you know, what kind of systems in place are you rewarding? What kind of, where there's a big fancy word out there that I use all the time, except when I'm trying to think about it. But, you know, if you are reinforcing a certain metric, you're going to get more of that certain metric. And if you don't reinforce a metric, you're going to get less of it. In this particular case, these tech guys are getting paid to close calls, not to fix problems, right? Because it's easier to tell how long a person was on a phone call than it was, hey, did that problem actually get resolved? Because 9 times out of 10, the end user, the person who called in with the problem, they're not going to fill out your survey. They're not going to do the, hey, did Ray do a great job or anything like that. They're going to go back and try to catch up on all the work they've been missing while the printer hasn't been printing. So, and we see this a lot in real estate. What behaviors are getting reinforced and what behaviors aren't getting reinforced with agents, and they're out there. It's what do you teach your agents to do, and what do you reward them for doing? Right, primary thing out there, the reward ultimately for most agents is a paycheck at the end of the day. Right. And it's unfortunate that the paycheck is tied into the price and value of the house and ultimately the contract, and not necessarily did you do the contract right, and was the result ultimately what the buyer or seller wanted. You know, it'd be like going out there and I've heard these stories before where people were complaining about other agents, and it's like, well, they kept showing me houses I didn't want. I'm like, well, what do you mean by you didn't want? I told them we needed to have a 2-car garage, and they kept showing me houses without a 2-car garage, or vice versa. And that's when you start getting, I know I've discussed Lexus syndrome with you guys out there. That's where an agent starts chasing the paycheck instead of, making sure the deal works. And really trying to figure out how to take this scenario that we're in and get it into the agent's mind. I don't just want to sell you a house. I want to sell this house 10, 15 years down the road. I want you to refer me out. I want to get a reputation in the industry. And you might remember this from way, way, way back in the day. and I don't have that book with me, but way back in the day, talking about the issues with, real estate agents who are thinking very short term, don't care about the reputation. They're just trying to get the deal done and they're off to the next one. And personally, I see this a lot in teams, all right? That team lead who's got a whole bunch of underlings working for him, he's not developing the relationship with the clientele, but he is sure that his CRM system and other processes he has in place are going to keep him or her top of mind, all right, when you, the consumer, decide you need to re-engage the services of a real estate agent. And unless the situation was really, really bad, you're going to go back to them, or you're just going to call on a bus stop ad or whatever. So don't know where I'm going with this all rambling stuff. It's just a correlation where we're at today, and I'm trying to make it somehow real estate related. One of the funny things is there's a Facebook page that I follow, and it's supposed to be real estate humor. And people just throw anything up there and say, oh, this has something to do with real estate because of whatever. So, with this podcast, I could just turn on a randle on and on and on about whatever the latest thing is, like this murder case that got solved or whatever, or actually the lady was convicted. It's apparently been tearing up the news in Idaho and, northern Utah, which I'd never heard of before until it was like on the news during lunch, and they were going to come out when the jury was coming out of deliberations, and the whole freaking world stopped, or at least that part of the world stopped to see what was going to happen, and she was found guilty. But that's not what this show is about. This show is about other things like real estate and whatever numbers look like. Hey, what do those numbers look like, right? Right now, for May 17th, 2023, we have 11,973 actives. That's down 20 from last week. This is starting to slow down. This is our second week where we're still going down, but the delta, the change is actually getting slower. We only had 1,865 new listings come down 73, and our contracts were down. We're at 2,513. That's down 173. Are we going into the summer doldrums? This is what we start seeing right about now. Heat picks up. Anybody who wants to sell a house has already got it on the market. All right. But what we can see going on is we had 1,767 closed, still much lower than what we're used to. But our supply is now down to 54 on the Cromford report numbers. And our demand is still tricking up at 84.7. It's given a Cromford report number 156.9. And I saw earlier this week that with the things that are going on in DC, we might have to start bringing quantitative easing back, all right, QE. And the easiest way for them to get QE going was to start buying a whole bunch of mortgage loans, which lowered the price of money to lend out. So we could be seeing, I know we've been talking fives by the end of the year. If they turn on that quantitative easing thing again, yeah, it's going back down. And once again, we just don't have the inventory to handle as many buyers who are going to be coming online. It'd be fun to watch what happens. But hey, we're just, they're just running from one fire to the other up there. There's no real continuation, no grand strategy that I see in Washington anymore. So, but let's talk about our local numbers, all right? So, green lights. It's all green lights, all right? Everything's going up, all right? Cromford report numbers. The higher this number is, the better it is for the seller. Chandler is still leading the pack at 251.0, right? Followed by Glendale, Fountain Hills, Phoenix, and Gilbert. All right, and Avondale rounds up everything in the 200s. Remember, 100 is supposed to be a balanced market. We got to go all the way down to Queen Creek. All right, and Maricopa has now come out of the buyer's market and has now moved into a balanced market at 91.6, leaving only Buckeye still left out there. All right, and the way they're trending up about next week after that, we're going to see those guys suddenly, and it's going to be seller's market across the board, except for Casa Grande. Now, I don't know what's going on down in Casa Grande. I don't know what's got those, but Casa Grande is it is such a buyer's market right now. I think they're actually starting to have price drops. Specifically Casa Grande. There's something specific out there that has happened, and that's way outside of the area that I work. So that's just one of those little bits of information that floats across my brain every once in a while. So maybe, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe people started, we had some speculators go into Casa Grande thinking that they were going to start getting some of that Chandler action, that Maricopa action. But you see, Maricopa is still depressed, but working its way up. So it could just be at the fact that, people came by in Maricopa instead of Casa Grande at the price points they want. So why do I want to drive even farther south and have to drive farther north? Casa Grande, they're in a bad position. They're between Tucson and they're in Phoenix, and they're actually an annoying distance away from both. So not a great place to be. So let's see what's going on with them. What else is going on in the news? Like I might have been talking about, we are bringing on a commercial department, and we're getting them all fired up, and that's going to be really fun and exciting. As we speak, hopefully one of our new students, all right, it's 1 o'clock right now, 1:10 when I'm recording this. She went in there at 11. So we should be getting a text from her shortly saying that she actually passed her test, and she'll be starting with us next week. That's going to be really super exciting. She's, let's see, mid-20s, I want to say. The older you get, the harder it is to tell ages on younger people. I got adults and fetuses. Those are my two categories right now. She's like young adult stage. So, and she's going to be bringing in that entire different outlook that you see the Zoomers and Millennials have, which, I think is a really good thing to have around in this market. So, that's it. I'm done. I got to go back to trying to fix computer stuff over here. So I hope you guys have a really great weekend. All right. Nothing cute about segueing so smoothly into watching your children and pets around water. Remember, at first it doesn't work. Reboot the server. All right. And you guys have a great weekend.